Then why on earth did you abduct her?
Because I failed to kidnap you.
Please don't do this. Let's talk about this, okay? Take me to my son right now. Because if you don't, I won't hesitate to shoot you in the head. He's in here.
Is the yacht already here?
It's on its way, Governor.
What?
I'll take care of JR.
Hillary! Don't you dare touch him!
Samantha, will you marry me?
Gari ndio hii Haya, kujeni tuangalie.
From 4 to 8 p.m. on the Nation Drive. More music.
Haya, ngeni muangalie.
You people have been found guilty of listening to Nation FM. I'm told now, Binda. On that note, everybody in this matatu is being paid for fare today.
Tunakemea January.
Just move to more music and less talk. Nation FM will be rewarding all Mathris tuned in to Nation FM. Watch out for the team as we visit various parts of the county. Nominate a SACCO that tunes in using the hashtag JustMove. Tag us and we will pay your fare. Kemea in January only on Nation FM.
The blind man told police officers, afade mimi sijawahi ona bangi maisha yangu yote.
Hizo ma award zikafanya watu waanze kuimbia award badala waimbe the word.
Mimi mkinichagua mtaona miujiza.
Anajifanya squeezy.
Kimbia mara moja.
Naogopa Mwenyezi Mungu na uji moto peke yake.
Hiyo si bangi.
Who are you, Carrie? Why do we look the same? Do I have a twin sister?
Agatha!
I'm 26 years old. You wouldn't know because you've been gone for so long.
You are a worthless mother! Oh my goodness!
I'm really sorry. Who are you?
Why are there three of us here?
I think now is the time to tell her the truth.
Wait, what is she saying?
I will look for my other sisters. From the picture, one of them looks rich. She's my twin sister, so I think that I deserve a part of their family's fortune.
The Lake Victoria is very important. It's a resource to the region.
77 ilikuwa samaki nyingi kabisa kwa maana maji ilikuwa safi. Na siku hizi hakuna samaki because of dirty water.
Hatukunywi maji. Ni kama hii maji imeagea wanyama.
What we release back to the lake meets the regulatory standards.
Hii maji ilikuwa maji safi. Na sasa hii huwezi fanya nayo kazi kwa maana ni mafi kila wakati.
Gari ndio hii Haya, kujeni tuangalie.
From 4 to 8 p.m. on the Nation Drive. More music.
Haya, ngeni muangalie.
You people have been found guilty of listening to Nation FM. I'm told now, Binda. On that note, everybody in this matatu is being paid for fare today.
Tunakemea January.
Just move to more music and less talk. Nation FM will be rewarding all Mathris tuned in to Nation FM. Watch out for the team as we visit various parts of the county. Nominate a SACCO that tunes in using the hashtag JustMove. Tag us and we will pay your fare. air in January, only on Nation FM.
This is NTV.
Good evening and welcome to PressPass. And yes, this is a new day. We will be having the show, and we hope that we haven't lost anyone from our Monday hour, which is our usual PressPass slot. But yes, this is going to be the new PressPass slot. And straight to our guest right next to me, we have Sylvia Muichuli. She is not a stranger on this panel. She has been here before, still talking about the BBI, but this was way before the report was out. She is a communication strategist and also a veteran journalist. She has been here at the Nation Center, Nation Building as a journalist way before when she was at the Parliamentary Beat. Next to her is Eliud Kibi. He is a sub-editor at The Star newspaper, and next to him is Masharia Gaido. He is a veteran journalist. He prefers I use independent journalist as the word, and a columnist on the Daily Nation every Tuesday. Next to him is David Makali. Yes, anapenda kutoa makali in terms of politics because he's a political analyst and as well as a former managing editor at The Star. He is a veteran journalist as well. And I am Mark Masai, the bald, shiny man who brings you PressPass every week, and this is what's coming up. Do we lose our audiences when talking about the BBI? Have they lost the interest, or are we simply losing touch? Have they had enough? We'll also be getting the views from different counties, thanks to our correspondents, on their main source of news and whether they have moved away from traditional sources of news, that is the established media houses, and gone to social media for their information. But let's start with what we were meant to have at 9 o'clock, and that is the impeached governor, Kiambu Governor Ferdinand Waitito. He was meant to come on at 9 to speak with Ken Mijungu, but akakuwa mteja just minutes to the broadcast and gave us a wide berth. But right as we were expecting it, we were of course promoting this online, and many talked about this particular anticipated interview. And one person who was actually meant to be on the show today, but she's out of town, Shefa Okore, she says, what clownery levels are these? Why can't you elevate this conversation, NTV, for shame? Basically saying that we're giving a platform to the same people who are in corruption cases, and there are many reactions. And yes, this is Roy Karaoke. If you're able to see what I'm looking at on the screen, I hope our technician can be able to hook us up. Roy Karaoke says they ran this bold headline about us electing clowns. Then they push these same clowns into our living rooms, giving them a platform to perpetuate nonsense. I'm thinking Nation Media Group are the real clowns here. Ladies and gentlemen, we all saw that particular headline of, why do Kenyans vote for clowns? Was this out of line? Tulichokoza kiasi? Sylvia?
Yeah, so here's my opinion. The truth is that every election, Kenyans lose it. And I don't know if I want to use the word clown, but we elect leaders who do not merit becoming leaders. So I think that the Nation headline has some merit.
All right, and I hope this doesn't get you into trouble, Eliud, because you work for the Star competition, but did we get it right here?
Well, it's the truth. It's the truth that there are people were elected in, actually not just the last election, but even in past elections. Blaming Kenyans for this, because one of the issues even in this BBI conversation is about electoral justice, and some of these people, there have been allegations that they were rigged in, well, he is among the governors who won with a vast majority. But by him, the criticism of NTV hosting him, I don't think is the media is here also to hold leaders to account. If you want to ask him questions, then why not offer him that platform to also maybe dig deeper? So I don't think
I'll get to that because people at Schaefer also put it to me. What new thing will Ferdinand Waititu tell us at this time? Because it will be the same, if I may, in some other people's words, buffoonery that will be brought on our air, but perhaps that's because we want some ratings. But we'll get to that, and I'll ask for your opinion. Would you go by the same headline, or perhaps go okay this headline? Why do Kenyans vote for clowns, Masharia?
Clowns are the least of my worries. We don't only vote for clowns. We elect thieves. We elect murderers. We elect a lot of people who have absolutely, who we cannot justify how we do, why we do it, and we cannot blame anybody else. But here we have asked the questions: why do Kenyans vote for clowns? Have we provided an answer?
Because of us being closed up in our cocoons of tribes.
Because we don't vote for policies, we don't vote for programs, we don't vote for ideology. All we know is that so-and-so is my tribal leader, and if he's elected, I might get some crumbs from whatever he's eating. That's it.
And I believe John Kamau in his piece, because this is what he wrote, and as he was explaining this and giving examples also of Sonko, the governor of Nairobi. And Makali, is this something that, was it kuchokoza too, just to get your attention, or we were actually onto something, on some nerve?
I think that that is not to be expected from the Daily Nation. Let me say it that way.
Not to be expected.
You see, it is not the place of editors or newspapers to label people. And you know, clown is quite a serious attack on the character and integrity of those who are named.
I would go with thieves being even worse, what Macharia has just said here.
But you see, you can call some people thieves if you have justification or evidence to prove, or they have been proven by a court of law. Clown is dismissing somebody's character and conduct. It's admissible, but from a newspaper of record such as the Daily Nation, it got me a little like edgy, because that's not to be expected from the Daily Nation or the Nation Media Group. A newspaper of record, a newspaper that represents facts, that doesn't judge.
Stop those compliments. Stop, please, just too much.
Being judgmental on in a headline.
Yes.
I mean, as they say, show me, don't tell me. So perhaps by just telling the story of how clownish these particular politicians are, we could tell as readers. But for you to announce that these are clowns and categorize them so, I think was too harsh for me. I'm not one of those moderate people.
He did paint the theatrics that they went by, such as the instant justice style here. You know what happened when that clip played and people making fun of it, and how they carry themselves. Even Sonko citing some of his theatrics. So perhaps the use of clowns there was appropriate.
Yeah, I think we have to, as much as maybe the word may seem a little bit harsh, but some of the behavior that has been exhibited by some of our leaders, honestly, there's no other way to describe it, unless you use the more challenging words like what Masharia has used. We've got leaders who really have exhibited the worst form of behavior. They have no respect for their citizens. They have no respect for the offices they carry. They dress like clowns. They do things that are ridiculous. Like really some of the dress codes we have seen with some of our leaders, surely. I don't know how you can describe that. If really your leader is wearing more bling than the guys in Hollywood and turning up in all manner of, let me just say, interesting fashion styles, I don't know what they expect to be called.
Have you heard this thing about my dress, my choice? I mean,
even beyond the dressing, I think even the behavior, some of these leaders have been. We've seen these people throwing stones.
Unless you set a national code, dress code.
Yeah.
And those codes exist in particular institutions, in Parliament, for example, in the courts. Maybe in the newsroom.
But one of them was just out of Parliament, out of chambers.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Where there are codes that are applicable, you expect them to comply. But, you know, generally to decide that this is right and wrong in terms of dress
There should be
code
the
for
code for
everybody,
governor
you
and
want to be
district
hesitant
code.
about that.
Right.
I mean,
Masharia, then there's a question thrown to us. Then why do we entertain them? We have these big interviews and we bring them on. Is it because we don't agree with them and their style of leadership? Does that mean we shouldn't have them on?
No, we can't ignore them. As long as these clowns are attracting the attention of Kenyans.
Yes.
Well, maybe Kenyans are the clowns for falling for those things. Then we can't ignore them. If a clown like Sonko can get 800,000 votes, more than any other politician in this the country, we can't ignore him.
Yeah.
But beyond acknowledging that, we do need to also try and set the agenda. And I think it is important for us as the media to start pointing out some of these things. And I'm not talking about calling our leaders to account. I'm talking about calling ourselves as Kenyans into account. And for me, that is the importance of this headline. How do I, as a sane, rational, sober, partly intelligent Kenyan, go and elect somebody of that, I don't even know how to describe him, somebody who does not deserve to be anywhere near a position of responsibility.
Yes.
And then when he steals, when he misbehaves, I start complaining. Today, I've been following some groups in Kiambu and the discussion there. You would think that nobody voted for Waitito. The fact is every single one of them voted for Waitito. And now because he's in trouble, they're distancing themselves from him.
And you were making that point about you don't quite agree with people who are castigating us for inviting them and having a one-on-one. Yes, we want the ratings. I admit we would feel that there are people who would want to hear what Ferdinand Waitito has to say a day after his impeachment, was stood by the Senate. And in our defense, we say we feel that it is newsworthy. Your view?
So, I mean, I remember like yesterday what we were looking for is Waitito's reaction after the impeachment. So what does this governor has to say? So, and I think there are many questions that people are asking rather than what is known or what he said in the Senate. So I would think such a platform gives the media an opportunity to also ask the question they might have. Why did you do this? Why did you take, as alleged, land that belonged to someone? Why did you do this? I think if you have that platform to ask the question, what I would disagree with is a platform for him to defend himself. That I would disagree with. But if it's a platform for him to ask the question that you want,
yes,
I think I don't see any problem with that.
Should we, deal with this carefully and how we interact with these leaders?
I don't think so. I mean, everybody deserves a platform to articulate their position, even defend themselves and advance their viewpoints. And I think, Waitito having been invited here tonight was a good thing. I mean, we want to see the postscript after the Senate, after all these things that have transpired, all the accusations, all the public discourse, discussions around his matter. What does he think? Maybe he would have come here and, express some remorse and say, I'm very sorry that I hurt that widow, or I think that I've thought about this and I was wrong, or, given us the new face of Waitito, not Governor Waitito, but citizen Waitito, what does he think and how does he look at all this drama that has happened around him?
Yeah.
I think curiously, I mean, a lot of Kenyans and viewers would be curious to find out how is Waitito feeling now.
Right.
But I think but speaking the other way, I think he was smart not to come tonight. If I was advising him, I would told him not to come. Sorry to say, because I think he would prejudice most of the things he's planning to do, perhaps in his own interest, even his own case or cause that he wants to pursue in court. So I think it's judicious of him and prudent not to have shown up tonight.
In the name of pushing the
disappointing as it is,
pushing the conversation further as people are challenging us to do.
I think the real issue, I think, Masai, is that it's not a problem to give people the platform. The problem comes when the interviewer is not prepared, and then the platform becomes owned by the person who's coming to defend themselves. So you have a case where you have a very big interview like tonight I was really waiting
Yes.
to watch Waititi. I was just wondering what his advisors were telling him to come and say. So imagine Waititi walking through the door, and then the interviewer is not well prepared to be able to take on the challenge of interviewing him.
Yes.
So then it becomes like you're giving him a free platform to come and sell his issues and sell his ideas. So I think for me that's why that comment was made.
Okay.
That we are bringing people into the newsrooms, giving them a whole platform to come and talk like people don't know that what they have done.
Yeah.
So I think what it calls for is for the people who are interviewing to take more time in preparing, so that when you bring someone to the studio, you really can hold them accountable, and not just give them a platform to come and do like some, you know, embellishment and, you know, sort of sorting out their image using the press as a platform.
Right.
I think for me that is where the issue is.
Okay, and someone here says, Douglas Jumba, he gets into what we want to discuss next. You say, I stopped watching the news. This fourth estate needs radical postmortem. Afadhali kuwatch Sophia the First. I do not know what that is, but I guess we could take it as a compliment. I do not know what Sophia the First is. It's no, yeah, here it is. He actually put it here. It's a Disney Junior program. It's a cartoon.
He's talking about Sophia the cartoon.
Yeah, Sophia the cartoon. You watch it clearly.
Yeah, it's something for girls to watch.
And so we found some people around different parts of the country and asked them, what is their current source of news? Where do they go to get information? This is in different parts, and thanks to our correspondents who were able to get their views. Let's listen in.
Mitandao za kijamii kama Facebook wanga sijaamini sana.
Na mara kwa mara natembea televisheni.
Seem to be having a problem there with the audio, and as soon as we sort it out, we'll bring it back. But the whole point was to ask people, and of course it can't be a scientific study, it's just a handful of people, and we thank our correspondents who've managed to get us some of the responses from different counties. But it's to find out what their source right now is and where they have their trust, if they're moving from traditional media, as we would call it. And I think we're ready for that. Let's listen in.
Mitandao za kijamii kama Facebook wanga sijaamini sana, cause kuna bloggers wengine wanaweka vitu zingine za uongo.
Napata news updates kutoka Google kwa sababu ni rahisi, na mara kwa mara natembea na simu, kwa hivyo ni rahisi kwangu. Pia napata kutoka kwa televisheni.
Watu kama sisi tuko na wifi huwa tunaingianga, tunapata ma news yani unataka, so si ile unakuwa restricted kitu unataka. So sana online inakuwa sawa sawa. Compared vitu kama hizi magazine hizo printed ni kitu nafaa ununue kila day.
All I can say, it has some advantages because you get first-hand information as it comes. You can get videos according to what happened.
Magazeti sio sana kwa sababu most of the time mimi niko hapa kwa kazi. Sasa jioni nikienda ndio huwa ninaangalia TV, ninaona habari zangu.
I get my news from newspapers and television.
Mara nyingi ninapokea habari zangu kupitia kwa runinga na pia kupitia kwa magazeti na kwenye mitandao ya kijamii.
I get relevant data or information from social media, or rather the Facebook, WhatsApp, and basically it's social media.
Mimi hufurahia kuona taarifa katika televisheni kwa sababu televisheni unaona vitendo na mambo yale yanafanyika.
Televisheni yanaona vitendo. And there's quite a number who talked about social media. And when you hear this being said, and many people actually tell me, are you still working at NTV? I'm like, yes, every week I'm there. You're probably not watching. I'm like, yeah, actually, I do not watch. Should we be concerned? And even the papers, when we talk about whether people buy the papers every day, and of course we're trying to move them to digital field. Are you, from where you're seated, concerned at how we package ourselves in terms of news media and putting it out there? Sylvia.
Yeah, I think there's a challenge, of course. If you're in print media right now, you'd really be concerned, especially if you look at that as a sample. But people need to be looking at how to leverage the convergence that is there now between social media, print media, and even broadcast media. So as much as people are picking up their news from social media, then print media and the broadcast media needs to make sure they are very present in those spaces, so that when I pick up my phone, the first thing I should see is breaking news from NTV, breaking news from KTN, or so that convergence is there. But at the end of the day, because people don't really trust social media, they will always go back to the traditional media sources to find out whether what they saw on social media is true. So therefore, there needs to be a sort of a change in the way print media does its stuff, so that you make sure that you're not waiting until tomorrow to share the news.
Right.
Whatever is coming out today, you're able to share using your social media channels as well. So I think for those who work in print media, they need to be very innovative in the way they package their news, in the way they sell their news, so that they're taking advantage and leveraging all these spaces and being there fast.
Yes.
Because whether you like it or not, the citizen media, the citizen journalist will be there fast if you're not there fast. So there needs to be a total rethink in how you get the news out. You don't wait until the morning to get the news out, but rather you find ways of getting it out faster.
As sub-editor at The Star, are you concerned when you hear more people talk about Facebook? Domina angalia napata news, Twitter.
Well, the truth is print is going down and people are moving digital. I mean, Mashari was saying the reading habits are changing because people are actually, for convenience, people are using their phone. But what I ask is, when people say they get their news on social media, where do they get that news? Because social media doesn't develop news. It's, for instance, NTV has shared breaking news. What's the source of that news?
They probably
It's
talk
NTV.
about the alternative platforms.
Exactly,
not
the
traditional.
platform, exactly.
Yes.
Now that is happening, and we cannot run away from that, because as I said, the consumption is different. So what we need to do, and for example, I was checking the New York Times this week got, I think, 5 million subscribers, compared to the print is about 900,000. So clearly that shift is happening. I think what we need to do, as she says, is to how do we package this news? Because people are actually following us, but they're doing that on a different platform, not the traditional. For instance, now if I miss NTV's bulletin, I'll go to YouTube and watch the entire bulletin. So I think how we package that and how we share that information that news is now what we need to work on.
Right. And Masharia, since you've been in the industry for quite some time and now it's changing to digital, are we ready to transfer that audience to getting to subscribe for the paper?
We have no choice. There is a shift in, let me call it, reading patterns or viewing patterns. The young people are not buying newspapers. Young persons are not so much watching what you might call legacy media, whether it is TV and radio. They are quite happy to get their bites, what they can get on their phone or their laptops.
Yes.
The big challenge is, how do we shift our news there, and how do we monetize it? Because a newspaper is very easy to monetize it. It is a product you go and sell on the streets and you get your 60 bob. We have tried, and I think all Kenyan media have tried to get subscribers on their digital platforms, and all of them have failed. You're not getting any substantial subscriptions on our digital platforms. The moment you try to set up paywalls, all the readers go to the next free available platform.
Yes.
But I think there are lessons in this. We have failed because I think there are so many things that we have not taken into consideration. Our reaction has been to lay off staff.
Yes.
Every year there are cycles of layoffs at Standard, at Real Media, at
Radio Africa,
at Nation. But we forget that if we still want to have content online, that the generation of that content cannot be mechanized. It must still be done by journalists. It must still be done by journalists. Now, this problem was faced by many papers, many big media groups in the US and Europe a few years ago, and they started downsizing and laying off staff. Today, Washington Post, New York Times are hiring more people than the ones they had laid off, because their digital content is so captivating and it's getting such major subscriptions that they need people to produce more and more content.
Yes.
As simple as that.
And we'll get back with the issue of content plus the layoffs. There's been layoffs. It's happening here at Nation Media Group. Currently, it's active. And Kibi will tell us about Radio Africa. It's a reality. Even BBC is planning to lay off very soon to save money. Money is at the bottom of it all. And of course, I will give you an opportunity, Makali, when we come back to continue with this discussion. And there's a concern as we lay off people who have institutional memory, the people who come up now. What are they producing and what are they giving the audience? Stay with PressPass.
Cracking comedy. Just move to NTV.
There's always crazy excitement when you join us each and every Saturday, and this Saturday is no exception. Tutakuwa hapo hivi on Grace, because we'll be knowing more about horses on grind yangu. You can also send in your request. You know, DJ Bash Vanyana Fanyanga on the ones and twos, and same time Tracy Wanjiru and myself will be on the mic. Amazing guests watakuwa na come through, so make sure you keep your fingers on that Twitter handle, man. #TeenRepublic NTV. Let's catch a vibe. See you there.
Teen Republic, in association with Fanta.
Trying to sort out my laptop, we're having issues mirroring what I'm looking at. But as that is being sorted out, we're talking about something that is active here. And perhaps we are not listening to our audience, and we're talking to ourselves. We're churning out papers, we're putting out broadcasts that are, to be honest, for us, not for you. And perhaps that's where we're also going wrong in not being able to sell, because here at the Nation Media Group, at the Daily Nation, there's a lot happening. People are being laid off. At Radio Africa, Kibi will tell us better, at the radio broadcasting division, there's more layoffs that has happened this January?
Yes.
Yes, and it's going on in different places. At the BBC, they've also announced that they're going to lay off people to save money. The question is, Makali, because of money, the people who are being laid off, the older journalists, they cost more. So bring in cheaper labor. Is that the right approach to all this?
I think it's a really tough situation for media ownership and management, because on the one hand, you want to make your operation sustainable. You need the money to keep the operation going. Keeping, the older hands, veterans like senior here, if they want to, this guy costs 10 new journalists
I wish.
to keep at Nation Media House, Media Group. So there has to be a balance, though. I mean, there is a way in which the companies have to balance between new and fresh blood in the industry,
yes,
as well as the old ones. So there's a process of mentorship and support, and that comes towards the production processes of these media houses. Because if you look at, for example, the politics of this country, you know, if you get the younger generation journalists, they cannot tell you stories of what transpired in the 90s and 80s and earlier. Yet those same politicians and the political phenomena are happening today because the country has not transited politically.
Yes.
And yet to expect this younger generation of people to be dealing with these old foxes. You know, you must have a background, you must understand how they work, their systems and where they've come from for you to understand and interpret what they are saying and what they're doing. And two, it takes a lot of contacts and a lot of experience, networking to get people who can give you information that is useful as a resource for you to share with your audiences. So there is a really catch-22 situation here, because do you want new guys who are younger and sharper, perhaps faster, more fleet-footed, who can do the job of today because we are digital?
Yes.
And then you leave out the old geezers like myself and Frances Magaido. Or do you keep us somewhere in the background, pay us less, but we do advisory or consultancy services to keep the industry and the information business up to speed?
Yeah.
I think that is what the management has to begin thinking of doing, because otherwise we'll continue getting trashed. And I see a lot of that on social media or Gidere media. What are these guys telling us? They are shallow, they're whatnot. All these issues are because, one, the investment that's required to get better information is a challenge to media houses because of declining revenues. And then two, the experience basically of the people who are on the front line and who must be there is not sufficient to dig up what people think they need to be served. But also, additionally, there's just a general skepticism and cynicism in the public domain about anything. So even those people who are dismissing media and saying, look, you guys are giving us nonsense, if you ask them to give you alternative sources of information or where they'll go, they have nowhere. They'll go and land into social media and all those things which have no verification, no truth. It's just, you know, a wild a forest.
But Sylvia says something interesting. I mean, she's talking about people coming back to legacy media to get the confirmation.
Yes.
And to verify. But he's also mentioned that when this legacy media finds a platform to charge you for the information to verify, then you move to the next platform. So where's the balance? Because you would need to get a trade-off there. And we're lost.
Yes. I think what Makali is saying is so true. I think there is, within the management teams at the various media houses, there needs to be some blue sky thinking going on, because there's so many changes happening that they need to take care of. But one of the things that is a big challenge is this whole breaking news kind of culture that we have now gotten, where we believe that every day we have to have a hot story, and and we're trying to outcompete each other. And this is compounded by the fact that we have this concept of citizen journalism, which is growing. So if you don't break the story, some guy in Kayole will break the story faster than you, So there's, I think it's a very challenging time to be in the newsroom. But I think one of the things that makes people very skeptical about the current set of journalists is the fact that the quality of reporting has really gone down. And I think this is partly because there are issues to do with finances. A media house just cannot allocate like a lot of money to a story. There's pressure on the management to deliver within certain parameters. But I think one of the things that can help is what Makali is talking about, and this is mentorship. One of the things that really helped when we were young journalists was that the older journalists really mentored us. And you couldn't take a story to press before it met certain basic tenets. And people like Philip Ocheng, I worked under Philip Ocheng, my first job was under Philip Ocheng. He would never carry the story unless it was, it was a complete story.
Yeah.
So he would keep pushing you back. Go and get this source, go and talk to another source. There was no rush to put the story out just because you had done it.
Yes.
So I think there's a responsibility, particularly on the editors, to take up a mentorship role, especially with these younger journalists, because the reality is that you can't afford the Macharia guy to have 10 of them in the newsroom. You go past. But
I wish I was watching you guys.
What's your net value? We keep asking the politicians.
You do need to work with the younger journalists, and you must invest in them, and you must invest time, and you must invest resources to bring them up. So I think one of the challenges we have is that young journalists are getting promoted too fast. So even before a person can write a decent story, they're already the editor.
I hope you're not flagging my promotion. I think I saw it in the blogs.
Yeah. and then you have a situation where that editor is not good enough, and that's why we have so many lousy headlines. Have you noticed that we make mistakes even on the masthead? You see mistakes, you wake up in the morning, you see the headline, and you're like, how did that even happen?
Yes.
So it's actually having a ripple effect, and I think we need that addressed.
But I would not entirely agree that the newspapers of today are completely, are that bad. I think they're pretty good by any standards, and I challenge anybody, take today's papers, go to the library and take the Nation and the Standard of
1980,
10 years ago, of 20 years ago, of 30 years ago, of 40 years ago, and just compare. First of all, there has been a complete shift. I think because today's papers are bolder, and they're trying to bring in more of interpretative journalism.
And day two journalism.
Journalism,
yes.
Investigative reports, long reads, and lots of opinion pieces. I came from a time when a newspaper from A to Z was reports of he said, she said, he said, she said. So the ball game has changed. And I think in this, it's much more difficult to produce a newspaper today because of the content required. You have to put much more thought into it than you did 20 years ago. That is true.
But the reason we're not selling as many copies, perhaps, is it the people are disinterested or they've moved online and we haven't moved?
I think it is the platform. Let me call it evolution. People have moved away from what you might call it dead trees.
Yes.
To news which is so more easily packaged, which you can get on your phone or on your laptop or on your iPad.
Yes.
As simple as that.
Yeah.
And the younger people of today don't buy even if you get them the best newspaper in the world, they will not buy it because they prefer to read it online.
Yeah.
And on the move, wherever they are.
Kibi, as sub-editor at the Star, you can tell us your experience as you try to get people to migrate to the digital space.
Well, for instance, I will tell you, for the Star website has been doing really well. Like for instance, we crossed over 4 million in July of last year. That was a growth, I think, of from a 2.4 in 2017. So yes, we are being read online, and I think what people are looking for are unique stories. For instance, if you get a human interest story, I mean, not any other story that is with any other platform, I think you get more traction to that. So the difficulty of doing that is like, what I can say, you see it, then other people pick it up, and as she says, this breaking news thing, so everyone is getting wants a lot of traffic and stuff. So I don't think there's a challenge, but also there's also, as she said, yes, I have gone under, veteran journalist Matthew Gadegera, Makali, Victoria Graham, and there's that mentorship, fine. But then we are developing now into a digital platform. I don't think these guys understand as much about digital platform as they do the print, which they worked for a long time. So I think there's that break. Yeah, how do you write online? So now I think what we need probably is training on how to report online well or digital. I think that training, but I realize there's that break.
I believe a good story is a good story.
The biggest gap is how to monetize. You may boast 4 million readers.
Exactly. Now that's the big problem.
How much money are you making from it?
No, that's the revenue part.
Then there's going to be an effect, because sooner or later you'll be laying off people.
Makali, closing word on this before we move on to what everyone is saying.
First of all, I think I expect more and better journalism from today's journalists than the yesteryears that Macharia referred to. Because the tools of our trade have also pretty gone miles ahead. The society has opened up more. the challenges we had looking for stories to get an investigative piece, you had hell to get documents and whatnot. Today, people are sharing documents all over the place.
Yeah.
It's up to you to look deeply and find what is exciting and that's not been presented in the social media and package it for your audiences. So it calls for creativity, speed, versatility, really, for you to survive. The monetization part is now the big challenge because the information that we used to sell has been socialized, and we are still trying to commercialize it. So we are going to be on the losing end for a very long time. But I mourn the day that we say journalism as we know it has died and has been replaced by something else I don't want to know.
Yes.
Because the processing of information that is done by journalism is not yet replaced by any other process. And so those who are dismissing journalists and journalism generally are actually calling for Armageddon.
Wow.
Because it will be a tough day when you have nowhere to verify anything and you're groping in the dark for any truth.
And then anything goes, there'll be some anarchy.
Just to respond to...
Real quick before you take a break.
He mentions about the speed of processing, but now we have another challenge that is fake news. You go really fast. We are good in breaking news. I think if you don't find it on the Star fast, then
advertise yourself. Why don't you?
But the thing is, the challenge that comes with that is fake news. How now do you verify? So as much as you want to go fast, then you need to be very cautious.
Yes.
So that's another.
Verify.
Exactly.
All right. And Nikki Kipingeno, you say you sell your papers only by mentioning Ruto and BBI, always headlines, and that's what we'll be getting into if there's people are tired of this BBI thing, or perhaps you're not even telling it as it should be said. You have been drowned into the political shenanigans, Cab says, by our manipulative politicians about BBI, such that all you air is about this camp did this, the other camp did that, so that you have lost the focus of your viewers about the importance of this document. Stay with us.
Eldoret Technical Training Institute. Registration for January, May and September 2020 intakes is ongoing. Apply now. Eldoret Technical Training Institute. Growing reputation.
It's educative, it's entertaining, it's rewarding, and it is InterSwitch Spark National Science Competition. Now is your time to spark. What instrument is used to measure light intensity in water? The process by which an amino acid loses its amino group is called? What phenomenon prevents raindrops from leaking through an umbrella?
Surface tension.
The product formed when carbon burns in excess supply of oxygen is? An element Y forms an oxide Y2O3. What is the valency of Y? Which super spark is going to make it to the semi-final? The deliberate removal of trees from the forest without replacement. Which element in group 1 exists as a gas at room temperature? Hydrogen. Per unit area of a surface is termed as? Keep it, InterSwitch Spark Kenya 1.0.
How to use our e-levy portal. Click Sign Up to begin the registration process. Once you have filled in all the necessary information, click Register and complete the registration process.
That word, BBI, and people are saying it's been a he say, she say kind of reportage. Let's be honest, let's be candid, and even if it was me broadcasting a particular story, please say it. Is it at 100%, 60%, 40% in terms of good? I'll start with you.
Yeah, I think
Toboa.
I think BBI was a great opportunity for the country that we as the media have just decided to lose out on it. One of the things that is important. It is, you know, when you have an opportunity to reset, to start again, to start over, it's always a great opportunity. So for me, when this whole story came up and all the skepticism, I was like, maybe it's an opportunity as a country to have a proper conversation. And I think that the media could have played a bigger role. I don't even want to give it a rating, but I want to say 3 things. Number one, the thing that has disappointed me is that we have fallen into the trap of the politicization of the process of the BBI. The BBI is a very critical document which has 9 points that we are supposed to be focusing on and unpacking. And what has happened is the politicians...
It was birthed through political intercourse.
Yes. But I think the media can choose to actually interrogate the issues. There are 9 issues there. But we are stuck at the political issues. And there are many more issues. So for example, there's the issue of safety and security, the issue of shared prosperity, the whole issue of devolution and how it has, you know, some analysis on how it's going. I think the media is not doing well enough in terms of getting deep into the issues. The second issue is, when I look at the rallies, I've watched the rally, the most disappointing one, of course, being the one in Kakamega, my hometown. That was pathetic. But watching the other rallies and trying to see how is the media reporting these issues. Again, these rallies are just being reported as political rallies, like the way you would report a political rally.
But these are political gatherings.
They are political gatherings, but I'm saying the media can decide to play the game differently and really start doing an analysis. For example, the people in Coast Province had a forum the day before the rally.
Yeah,
how was that forum reported? It wasn't.
It was mentioned that was
about
2,000 to 3,000 delegates
people there,
from the region.
What were the issues that were discussed, and how did the media analyze those issues? It was not done because the media was focusing on the rally the next day. So we missed an opportunity to tell the narrative of what the Coast people wanted. They spent a whole day there discussing their issues, but the media didn't go there. So I personally feel that there's a missed opportunity there, and that perhaps now that we have the next one going in Kitui, maybe we can correct the way we handle, because we should not drive the narrative that the politicians are driving. The media should be talking about the real issues that the Kenyans want to be seen, to see in the BBI. So bringing out the voice of Wanjiku, bringing out the voice of the locals, what do they want to see? Because people are spending hours on spending time to identify, like for example, forget about the people in Western, they didn't do it, but the Mombasa people, the Coast people sat down and said, these are the issues that we'd like discussed. So until Kingi came and gave that list, Governor Kingi came and gave the list, we hadn't been informed about what the Coast people are thinking, and I think for me that's the missed opportunity.
All right, Eliud?
Where are the copies of the BBI report? They said they'll distribute. Who is in charge of BBI? How are these delegates who we hear are meeting ahead of the rally? How are they being selected? What I'm getting from this, it appears as there is already a predetermined destination where this process is headed to. So what we're having is an arranged events that will end up at a certain, destination. So, and we cannot, they say Kenyans have a very short memory. For instance, the proposals we are seeing in this BBI are not different from what we had in the Bomas draft. The 14 regions, well, Bomas had proposed the parliamentary system. Now they are proposing a prime minister. Now they want a powerful prime minister. These are the issues I think we should be doing that. For instance, the best way we can do this is to have people who have been through this constitutional review process. What did they do in 2005? What did they do in 2010? What do they think about this? I think Yashpal Guy and Jill Cottrell Guy have done a lot of work in this regard. But are we giving them enough space? Are we giving them that platform? What we are seeing is...
you're from the side.
And they have done that. They have the Katiba column. They have done that, a very good article.
Generally, though.
Yeah, so very good. It's really, in the Star. but what we are losing, as she said, are the issues. What are these issues, and how then are you going to address them? They're saying there's a review. I don't see a review. if it is going back to get more opinions of the opinions that we already got, then the first I think meetings were better managed and there was some structure. We don't have a structure in this BBI.
Okay.
So even when journalists want to follow up, right, the constitutional review process they went to Kilifi, they went to Bomas, they went to Naivasha, to Elementator. There was a structured process.
Yes.
The committee of experts had its own responsibility, the MPs had, but this is something that, for instance, the committee that was gazetted, what its role? I have not seen them. What we are seeing is Raila, is Ruto, and the drama around them. So I think maybe we are losing that.
You sound more like a reader or audience as a sub-editor. Someone might say, my goodness, you're the one who should be giving me those answers.
I mean, I'm not just saying about me, it's about
Those
the general coverage. Yeah, general coverage, yes.
All right. And Macharia, if you probably saw that piece, I know you're from the Star, but you also read the Daily Nation. In the Tuesday piece, he had a 10-point recommendation that could get us out of the rut.
Yes.
And that was... And sometimes, Macharia, we're told, you're taking Tanga side, Kieleweke side, but when you write a piece like yours, where you actually do call this process out for what it is, a vehicle to 2022, still not enough.
There's only so much some of us can do, but I think we do owe it to ourselves, to our readers, to our nation, to try and set the agenda and point things in a certain direction and get people thinking. I mean, okay, I can't argue with the fact that BBI is a political process, birthed by politicians, driven by politicians. But it is also what I might call a constitutional moment. As important, a referendum, or it would be as important as the last general election. BBI would be as important as the steps leading up to a new constitution in 2010. And even as we report the politics, we should be giving as much room to highlighting those issues which it is meant to address and asking ourselves questions whether they are being addressed. I don't remember the last time I saw Nation or Standard or the Star simply list that, even without comment, simply list that 9-point agenda, just to remind Kenyans that, hey guys, as guys go for road shows in Kakamega,
those are pullout that we were criticized about.
Mombasa, wherever,
pull out at the Bomas.
This is what this thing ought to be focusing on. And beyond that, it is time also to start taking positions. In the run-up to the constitutional review process, or during the Nation took a position, the Standard took a position. Okay, it was risky because of the political dynamics and the fact that even that thing was driven by politicians. But a point comes and we have to say, as Nation or Standard or Star, this is our stand on these 9 points. This is what we think should take priority, what is good for Kenya. Just simply regurgitating what everybody is saying without providing a direction, it basically means that we are caught up in that game of those rallies which are giving us more heat than light.
Yes. And tell me your response as you listen to this tweet. Kenyan Dream, you say, every time you give the audience to tribal clowns, scheming to gain relevance through the BBI scam, you insult Kenyans. You prove to us that you don't know your powers in setting the agenda and mood of the nation. Of all the necessary things you could highlight on the positive and negatives, you choose BBI. What's your response? With the hat of an editor and the hat of a political analyst.
And a politician.
And a politician, yes.
I'm lucky to have all those hats.
Yes.
You see, I think either way, as an editor or as a newspaper or as a media house, you are damned, because you present views of a certain type, you're going to be condemned. You block out those views, you're still going to be condemned. I think the public needs to appreciate that the space of the media is universal, is public, is for everybody. And the media owes the public that openness that everybody can actually play in this space. Now that is the challenge that the media has to live up to. Whether it's doing that effectively, I cannot judge. But there appears opportunities that are being given to other people and others not being offered the same opportunities, or there is no diversity of opinions, different shades of opinion, or even characters appearing in our media houses, which is a matter that concerns me. I mean, are we spreading broad enough to get everybody who can probably have a view coming on board in our newspapers, on our TV stations, on radio stations? That is a big issue. I don't want to be the one dominating newspaper and TV airtime. I want to see other people also come and argue their points of view.
Yes.
So I think to that extent, I can fault the media for not opening their door wide enough to allow even people who are not prominent or well known, so that they can also articulate their views. That extent, yes. But the bashing of the media has become fashionable, if you ask me, because there's only so much that the media can do, and the media has done a lot. With regard to the BBI, for example, what is the issue? There are two issues here. One is the issue process of that BBI. The second one is the issue of content of the report. What is it that the media houses or journalists or journalism has not asked of the public or the politicians who are involved in this thing? Masai has raised, columns have been written, newspapers, commentaries have been done, reports have been written quoting critics of this process and the content. You can't sing the same song every day. You also become it becomes tedious. So the media has done its part. What is left is for the people themselves to take up their responsibility and act in their interest and in the interest of the nation. You see, and that's where I think, because I sympathize with the media, because we raise all these issues, but the people who are hearing these issues have decided not to do anything about them. People have said, let the steering committee do its job. How many times should the media say that?
Yes.
The people who appoint or the politicians in charge of this process should say, yes, let's listen to this, it makes sense. If they decided they don't want to listen to it, it's not the media to force people.
Yes.
The media reports and the news is dynamic. We can't ignore people who have gathered in Mombasa who are causing a phenomenon and go for something that is low key. That is not how news is prioritized.
Yes.
What shouts, you pick it up and then look what is underneath. But we're being told, ignore the shouting, go for the quiet. No, the quiet people should also shout. Let's hear all of them. That's how I would tell them. But you can't sit back and say, why are you not reporting about us? But what are you doing that we can report about you?
Yes.
Okay, I'll just say, we have a tweet here from Ndongo Wainaina. What do I call him? He's a civil society guy. Media has succeeded in diminishing plurality of voices and ideas. This has hamstrung the country into motionless political rut. There are so many issues on BBI, but there is only one narrative, either for or against. Any other voice has been shut down. And I replied to him even before I came here because I seen it earlier.
Yes.
I'm sure Mark Masai will be happy to have you on PressPass.
Yes.
And let's do that. There are people who feel they have something to say, and they feel that the media is not giving them an opportunity. Let's have them in our studios. Already they are all over the places on the opinion pieces and columns. But let's give them as much space as possible. But sometimes people whine and argue, and sometimes I wonder, do they actually read what is in our newspapers?
Yes.
Do they actually watch our TV stations? Because if they're paying attention, maybe they would not be complaining. I've heard some of those same people say, I don't watch Kenyan newspapers. I don't watch Kenyan TV. It's not worth it. I don't read Kenyan newspapers. I only read international newspapers. And at the same time, how do you argue with a person like that?
Yes. But they say they don't feel that you're relevant to them, whatever you put out.
How do they know we are not relevant if they're not reading?
Okay. To you, Sylvia.
Yeah, so
and that balancing act.
I think it's always good to hold up a mirror. I think you can only improve if you can look at yourself and see, what is really going wrong. And I think I do commend the fact that yes, the media has done quite a lot.
Yes.
But this report was launched back in November. And if you go on the streets of Nairobi, you go in the streets of Kitale, you go in the streets of Mombasa and ask an ordinary Kenyan, what do they know about BBI? I challenge any media house to try it and see what you'll get out of it. The fact of the matter is that the understanding and awareness about the content of this report is still very low. The ordinary citizen thinks it's a battle between the Kileweke versus Tanga guys. They actually don't know that there are critical issues that are raised in the report. And if any of the critical issues are being upsounded, like the issue of corruption, it's because of a political agenda. So I think the media needs to ask itself, then if people are not reading, how do we make this interesting enough? Because your role is to ensure that if you're sending a message, the messenger, the person receiving the message is actually getting the message. So it's a challenge. I want to say a very important thing.
Yeah. You want to challenge what she said?
I was looking at the data. Wait, Makani, give me a minute. I was looking at the data of the number of people who participated in the BBI process according to the BBI report. Let me just give you the data. 7,000 citizens actually presented in some form to the BBI committee. Among them were 400 elected leaders, 123 individuals who represented major institutions, like a major institution making maybe a civil society organization making a presentation. There are 261 individuals who sent memorandums and 755 citizens who sent written submissions, which means actually quite a number of Kenyans participated in the process. However, these voices were not heard. What I'm trying to say is that even as the presentations were going on, they give us so much about what's happening in Bunge. You guys give us what's happening in Bunge. When a rally like the one that happened in Mombasa is, you go live for so many hours. But how come we did not see these people?
Make some noise, he says.
Yes, how come we didn't see these people? As these people were presenting to the BBI committee team as they went around the country, why didn't we see these voices? Why didn't we hear what they had to say? Why do we have to know that 7,000 citizens presented in the report? But through the process, I'm trying to imagine 7,000 is quite a lot of people. How come we didn't hear them? And why didn't the media report about this?
I want to agree with Sylvia. Actually, I wasn't to challenge, I was to just buttress what she's saying. Which is that the problem and the major weakness of our media is inability to follow processes, deliberations. That you can send a reporter to City Hall or KICC and proceedings of a certain nature going on, and they'll report what transpired there. Apart from just what the main leaders or guests said and went. The deliberations, soon as they're finished, of course we leave. But you see, that deprives us and the public of the wealth or the content that transpires after the departure of the chief guests. You know, that's what Sylvia is talking about. And I've seen that. I was chairing a task force, even of issues that affect us as the media. But the media itself could not even sit in and even address and articulate its own issues. They waited for the report. I mean, that is a serious weakness on our part, we must admit. So, but secondly, before I finish, now post facto, the report was presented by the task force to the principals, and they mentioned that 7,000 people presented the memoranda and so forth. I have not seen any media house that has ventured to find out who are these people who presented, what did they submit, were those things they submitted in the final report, or as we say, the report was treated elsewhere and a final copy brought, and we can't help the public to tell. So that's a big problem. And I think that if we went out and sought out those submissions, we'd actually get the people who submitted and have additional interviews with them to add value to the final report. So that is still work to be done.
Yes, Masai, real quick, and then
I remember during the public hearings on BBI, I challenged some of my media colleagues that I think our readers and viewers need to have those hearings religiously covered, given prime space, live coverage, plenty of space in the newspapers, because see something important happening.
Can you review those days?
And our readers are not seeing it. But I also challenged the BBI Secretariat. You guys, where are these? You're telling us you're receiving all these memoranda. Where are they? As a journalist, where can I get them? Can I get the hard copy? Can you put them on your website as they come in so that we can call them from there? No response. Up to today, when they're telling us they have 7,000 presentations, go to the website, 0. Not even one.
It is true. I want to underscore what Masai is
not
saying.
even one.
Even basic things. You know, I think
even
the
today,
task force,
if we're taking it as if it is now the work of the media to publicize the output of the task force.
It's its business.
That is their business. They should be doing it. We can do it because it is a public interest thing.
Yes.
But the ultimate responsibility is theirs.
Right.
And here I am addressing. He's called what?
Paul Mwangi
and
Martin Kimani.
And Martin Kimani. Yes. The ultimate responsibility.
And those two gentlemen, sorry to say this on TV, but even, I mean, I've known them before they even became secretaries or conveners. But since they took up the office, they all of a sudden went into secrecy, as if they are colluding and conspiring against the public. Yet they are supposed to be doing these things in our public interest. So when you ask for information from the steering committee or the BBI committee, nobody is ever speaking. Why aren't those guys free to come on these TV stations and tell us what the BBI team is doing, what they are planning to, you know, diffuse all these speculation and conspiratorial theories
around it?
Nobody wants to do it.
Yes.
How are we working as a country? The Constitution calls us to public participation.
Right.
Why is it that public participation has become #1 enemy in this country?
Before just something he had said, he had mentioned about his task force on government communications. Yes, it is true that we did not cover it adequately in terms of its hearings, and he did present his report to the Minister for the Cabinet Secretary for Information Communications.
Yes.
Up to now, as far as I know, that report is top secret. It has not been made public. It has not been made public.
Yes.
I don't know what the Cabinet Secretary did with it.
Yes.
It was not given to the media, and we're talking about, and it's a report on a task force on government communications. I mean, what a communications fail that is.
The Cabinet Secretary said he received the report. It was for his consumption, processing, and action. So he said he's taking it fast to cabinet, I mean, of course, to the president to review what is in there and then act or decide what to do with the report. Well, Mashara is right. Maybe it's taken a while for feedback, but in terms of process, perhaps that was the thing to do. But
okay,
you know.
so Elliot, we give an opportunity to Elliot.
Mark, just to respond to Makalino, it's not the first task force report that has not been made public. Many haven't, so I won't be surprised. But let me.
Particular one is communications.
Yeah, exactly. So let me just respond to, Makali said there's only how much media can do. She says there were 7,000 people who submitted. I think correspondents were in those platform, and they covered that. We could not have covered everyone, but even individuals who made those presentations were covered. And actually, I would say, even remember when the 9-point agenda was given, it's the media that kept asking, what is BBI? What is this building, initiative? What is it? What is BBI? I think, and the contents of that report, media continued to push for it until I think the 9-point agenda that was done, but we wanted to know what is behind that. But I would think the reason why we have not had especially a good follow-up with the review is the chaos that I talked about. Like, now, what are you following up on? How do they even develop these recommendations that they come and read on these rallies? So I think the chaos and the lack of arrangements of us or framework on how this BBI thing is being handled is even, trickled down even to how media covers this.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we need to close, but I need to ask something that he brought up. Are we mature enough? Are we ready to take a position and say BBI is a way to go, or it has one or two things to work on, or BBI is rubbish as a media house? Perhaps not in those words, but you don't follow. Take a position on this. Are we ready for that? And should that be the way?
I totally agree with Guy, though, that we needed, media houses now have to get to a point where they take a stand. And there's one critical issue that I wanted to respond to before talking about that issue. This is what Makali talked about, the fact that the secretariat, the BBI secretariat, has really also failed. Because one of the things, I wrote a post about what they needed to do immediately after the BBI was launched. The first thing they needed to do is ensure that the document is in a format that is accessible to all Kenyans, which means that the document needed to be translated into as many languages as possible so that the ordinary Kenyan can understand. What are we talking about if you don't understand what? And some of these words are very difficult. Like if you think of a word like shared prosperity, how does my mother in the village understand what shared prosperity is unless you put it in a language that she can understand? So they needed to have, the Secretariat needed to come up with a civic education agenda. This is not a big deal. They could have gone to any donor. If they had gone to DFID or any other person, possibly they would have gotten funding to support that civic education, because Kenyans need to understand what is in the document before we can even debate and make a decision. So even as we are asking the media to take a stand, first and foremost, we need to get the ordinary citizen to understand. So what I expected to see on my part was a very serious partnership between BBI Secretariat and, you know, the vernacular radio stations. So that people are going out and explaining the document to the community that of the language you speak. So if it's the Masai, for example, we would have programs being aired on Ma Radio and other radio stations trying to unpack the whole issue. Yeah, because there's no point of going around for a second round of, they're not going for a second round of hearings, and you haven't even explained to the ordinary Kenyan what this document means and why it is critical and why we must be interested in it as a community. So my thinking is that it is good for the media to take a stand, but first things first. Let's unpack this document for the ordinary citizen. Let's go out through the vernacular. Now there's a radio station almost for every community. Make sure that the document is translated and the critical messaging given to the community so that they can understand how to engage with the document. You can't engage with the document that you don't understand.
You don't understand in the first place. Eliud Kibi, the Star, ready for that kind of situation? We take a position on the BBI?
Well, I'll not speak.
You can speak for your boss, yes, but generally,
I would say,
do you think
I
we should
agree.
get
Actually,
to that?
that's a huge challenge to, I think, as she said, every media house, I think, has, I mean, a number of vernacular radio stations. But it's hot, it will get hotter. So I think still we need to first explain to people, like Mashinani, people don't know what BBI is. Yeah, they don't. Like, what is it? They will say it's for this person to get to power, it's to cut this guy to size. I mean, and if we take, I think, position now, I think it's to, because I think this thing will go on and on until 2021. I mean, so I think it's too, I agree with Mashari, we need to take a position, but I think it's too early.
Does it go against that, cardinal rule of objectivity?
No. I think you cannot have a false balance in some of these things. If something is right, it is right. If you believe this is the way to go, then come out and say it. Because if we're not able to take a position, so we are not mature enough to take a position, then we don't deserve to be Kenyan media. We might as well go and grow potatoes or something else. Because what are we for? We are to set the agenda. Agenda setting, educating people, informing people.
Even if it means some regions will not buy the paper because they'll say
that is the challenge we faced in 2010 on covering the Constitution. And we said we can rise above that. And if we take a position, it will be because we can explain to our readers why we have taken that position, not because it is the Ruto position or the Raila position or the Uhuru position or anybody else's position, but what is good for the country.
But
as
senior,
simple as that.
What are we taking a position on? We have not even finished on this review.
But no, we don't have to wait for which review? The rallies. That is it. Ours would be to, if that document is being reviewed and it is going to be amended, then we can take a position by which we can influence the eventual outcome. If we wait until it is redrafted, it will be too late. We'll have missed the boat.
Okay. All right, we're out of time, but you have the last say.
The whole problem, what Edward is asking is the big problem. Because what is BBI? Is BBI the initiative or BBI the report? That thing needs to be unpacked. In this country today, when you say BBI, it has acquired the meaning of a certain political affiliation or grouping.
And now nobody can stop radio.
So either you are for or against, yet everybody has said they agree with the initiative, the BBI initiative.
Yes.
They may not agree with the report.
Yeah.
That's the distinction we need to make.
But can we take a position? Do you think
I think
we're there?
so, and I think as a newspaper, every media house has a soul, and that soul is the editorial board.
Yes.
And it needs to speak and decide in the national interest, that which is what guides us.
Right.
Yeah.
And have we called them out adequately when it's, let's say, this is BS? Have we called them out?
I think opportunity has not arisen.
Personally, I have, but
Yes.
I am not the Nation. I have had my page in the Nation, and I dismissed most of that report as recommendations as BS.
Yes.
But I think people want to hear what is the Nation telling them as an institution.
And I think it's important, and I think the opportunity is coming when media houses ought to take a position or a stand, and I expect that to be the case, because we must define what is good for the country and identify with it, regardless of your ownership.
And whether we will lose out on some copies being sold in one area or another. All right, David Makali, Macharia Gaido, Eliud Kibi, thank you very much for advertising your paper. I'll give you the invoice after this. And Sylvia Muchuli, thank you for your time and thoughts on PressPass. Much appreciated online, given the feedback. Thank you for speaking candidly to us. We didn't speak about locusts, we didn't speak about coronavirus, which we wanted to, but we will give ample time to it, perhaps even in the next episode. God willing, tukiwa hapa. Thank you for watching PressPass. My name is Masai. Good night.
This is NTV.
Be part of over 40,000 students pursuing and nurturing their career at Moi University. Enroll now. Moi University, the foundation of knowledge.
Who are you, Carrie? Why do we look the same? Do I have a twin sister? Agatha! I'm 26 years old. You wouldn't know because you've been gone for so long. You are a worthless mother! Oh my goodness! I'm really sorry. Who are you? Why are there three of us here?
I think now is the time to tell her the truth.
Wait, what is she saying? I will look for my other sisters. From the picture, one of them looks rich. She's my twin sister, so I think that I deserve a part of their family's fortune.
Gari ndio hii Haya, kujeni tuangalie.
From 4 to 8 p.m. on the Nation Drive. More music.
Haya, ngeni muangalie.
You people have been found guilty of listening to Nation FM. I'm told now Binda. On that note, everybody in this matatu is being paid for fare today.
Tunakemea Januari.